It started with a number, 102 milligrams per deciliter, my fasting blood sugar. Not diabetic, but a warning. As a doctor, I see patients with similar numbers progress to pre-diabetes or type 2 diabetes. It was a wake-up call. My lifestyle with long hours and late-night snacks wasn't helping. My body's sugar management was strained. Diet and exercise are key, but I was curious about supplements, specifically Berberine. Berberine's claims were bold. As a skeptical physician relying on evidence, I decided to test it myself. This was a personal quest to see if Berberine could make a difference. I wanted to separate hype from reality. I became the subject of my own experiment, tracking everything for 30 days. The internet has a nickname for Berberine, nature's Ozempic. That's a powerful and honestly pretty provocative comparison. Ozempic is a blockbuster prescription drug changing the landscape of diabetes and weight management. To put a natural supplement in the same category sets an incredibly high bar. It suggests similar mechanisms and similar outcomes, specifically improved blood sugar control and potential weight loss. This comparison was the hook that truly captured my scientific curiosity. Is it just clever marketing, or is there genuine substance behind the claim? That became the central question I wanted to answer with my 30-day experiment. My primary goal was crystal clear. I wanted to see a tangible change in my blood sugar metrics. The main target was my fasting glucose. Could I get that 102 milligrams per deciliter reading back down into the solid double digits, well within the optimal range? Beyond that, I was interested in my post-meal glucose spikes. Those are the sharp rises in blood sugar that happen after you eat, which can lead to energy crashes and cravings later on. I wanted to measure those spikes before and during the experiment to see if Berberine could blunt that roller coaster effect. This was the most important outcome for me, and the core of my investigation. My second objective was to monitor for any changes in my weight and appetite. Many studies I'd reviewed hinted that Berberine could influence weight, possibly by improving insulin sensitivity or even affecting fat cells directly. I decided I wouldn't change my diet or exercise routine during the 30 days. This was crucial. I needed to isolate the effects of the Berberine itself. If I lost weight, I wanted to be confident it was due to the supplement, not because I suddenly started eating salads for every meal. I was also curious about my cravings. Would taking Berberine make me less likely to reach for that late-night snack? Finally, and just as importantly, I needed to track the full experience, including the side effects. No medicine, natural or pharmaceutical, is without potential downsides. The research mentioned gastrointestinal issues, and I wanted to document that honestly. Was it a minor inconvenience or a major problem? Would there be other unexpected effects? My goal was to provide a balanced view. It's easy to get excited about potential benefits, but it's irresponsible not to talk about the risks. My commitment was to track everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly, to give a complete picture of what a 30-day journey with Berberine really looks like. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to like, share it, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you do not miss any of our future videos. Thank you. So what is Berberine? It's a natural compound extracted from plants like golden seal and barberry, used for centuries in traditional medicine. Berberine gives these plants their golden yellow color. It's an alkaloid with potent effects. Like aspirin from willow bark, Berberine is now being studied in clinical trials. It interacts with our bodies on a molecular level. Traditionally used for gut issues, scientists discovered its impact on metabolism, specifically blood sugar. Because Berberine comes from various plants, supplement quality can vary. Plant source and extraction affect potency. Berberine is a potent compound with a growing reputation for metabolic health. The nickname Nature's Ozempic is undeniably catchy, and it's the main reason Berberine has exploded in popularity. To understand the comparison, you first have to understand what Ozempic does. Ozempic, and similar drugs like Wegovy, belongs to a class of medications called GLP-1 receptor agonists. In simple terms, they mimic a gut hormone called GLP-1, which tells your body to release more insulin after you eat, slows down how quickly your stomach empties, and signals to your brain that you're full. This powerful combination leads to better blood sugar control and, for many people, significant weight loss. It's a game changer in modern medicine, but it's also a prescription drug with a high cost and its own set of side effects. Berberine earned its nickname because it appears to produce some of the same outcomes as Ozempic, even though it works through completely different biological pathways. People taking Berberine often report better blood sugar levels, reduced appetite, and some weight loss, the very benefits that make Ozempic so famous. So when someone on social media says it's nature's Ozempic, they are speaking from a results-oriented perspective. They ate less, their sugar cravings diminished, and their glucose meter showed better numbers. From a user's point of view, the comparison makes a certain kind of sense. It's a simple, powerful way to describe the effect they are feeling in their own body. However, as a physician, I have to be very clear. This comparison is an oversimplification and can be misleading. Berberine is not a GLP-1 receptor agonist. It does not mimic the same hormone that Ozempic does. Its mechanism of action is entirely different, primarily revolving around the activation of an enzyme called AMPK, which we'll dive into later. Think of it like two different people trying to fix a leaky faucet. One might use a wrench to tighten a bolt, while the other might replace the entire gasket. Both might stop the leak, the desired outcome, but they used completely different methods to get there. This distinction is critically important for safety and for managing expectations. The danger of the nature's Ozempic nickname is that it can create unrealistic expectations or encourage people to use it irresponsibly, perhaps as a substitute for a prescribed medication without consulting their doctor. While the outcomes might have some parallels, the potency and mechanism are worlds apart. Ozempic is a highly targeted, powerful pharmaceutical, whereas Berberine is a broader-acting natural compound. The nickname is a powerful marketing tool and a useful shorthand for its effects, but it's essential to look past the hype. My goal in this experiment was to see how close the real-world results of Berberine could get to the promise suggested by that famous and controversial nickname. What does the hard scientific evidence say about Berberine? The research is surprisingly robust. One study compared Berberine to Metformin, a frontline drug for type 2 diabetes. Berberine was just as effective in lowering blood sugar markers. A 2023 meta-analysis found Berberine significantly improves insulin sensitivity, helping the body use insulin more effectively. The claims about weight loss are also supported by clinical data. One study showed subjects lost an average of 5 pounds. It's not magic, but evidence suggests it can be a helpful tool. I was following the science. Berberine can lower blood sugar, combat insulin resistance, and potentially aid in weight management. These claims are backed by peer-reviewed studies and clinical trials. The only question was, would it actually work for me? To conduct a meaningful experiment, you need a strict and consistent protocol. After reviewing the scientific literature, I settled on 1,500 milligrams per day. Taking this all at once is a recipe for digestive disaster. Berberine has a short half-life, so to maintain stable levels and minimize side effects, I divided the dose into 3 500 milligram servings. The timing of these doses was critical. The goal is to manage blood sugar spikes after eating, so the best time to take it is shortly before a meal. I take one 500 milligrams capsule 30 minutes before breakfast, lunch, and dinner. This leads to the golden rule: always take it with food. Taking it on an empty stomach caused discomfort. Food acts as a buffer, aiding absorption and preventing irritation. Taking Berberine with a meal became non-negotiable. This is the most critical piece of advice I can offer. The protocol: 500 milligrams 3 times a day, always before a meal. In any good experiment, the goal is to isolate the variable you are testing. In this case, it was Berberine. To truly understand its impact, I had to ensure that it was the significant change I was making. This meant keeping my diet and exercise consistent. If I had suddenly started a new workout plan or switched to a low-carb diet, it would have been impossible to know what was responsible for any changes. By keeping everything else the same, I could be much more confident in attributing the results directly to the Berberine. Once you start a health-focused experiment, you become more mindful of your choices. There's a natural temptation to be good and clean up your diet or hit the gym a little harder. I had to actively resist this urge. My life during the 30-day experiment had to be a mirror of my life before it, with the single addition of 3 golden capsules per day. This approach is essential for controlling for confounding variables. My experiment was an N=1 study, meaning I was my own control. I can do so with a high degree of certainty that these changes were driven by the Berberine protocol. The goal wasn't to achieve the maximum possible health transformation. It was to isolate and understand the precise effects of a single supplement. Data is the heart of any experiment. Without meticulous tracking, my 30-day journey would just be feelings. I armed myself with devices and a system for recording everything. The most important tool was my continuous glucose monitor, or CGM. This gave me a 24/7 stream of data on my blood sugar levels, revealing my fasting glucose, real-time responses to meals, and overnight patterns. For weight, I used my digital scale consistently every morning. I recorded the number each day in a digital notebook. My tracking went beyond just numbers. I kept a detailed daily journal to log subjective data like energy levels, appetite, cravings, and any side effects. This qualitative data is just as important as the quantitative data, painting a complete picture. At the end of each week, I reviewed the data, looking for emerging patterns and trends. This transformed my trial into a detailed self-study. The most important metric I wanted to influence was my fasting blood glucose, a snapshot of my metabolic health. My journey started with a consistent reading of 102 milligrams per deciliter, squarely in the pre-diabetic range. I tracked this number every morning, and as I moved into the second week, a downward trend emerged. By the end of the second week, my average fasting glucose was hovering around 95 milligrams per deciliter, moving me out of the pre-diabetic classification. On the final day, the number displayed was 88 milligrams per deciliter, an optimal one. In 1 month, with no other changes, I had lowered my fasting blood glucose by 14 points, from a state of metabolic concern to health. The experiment had worked, and the primary goal had been achieved. It demonstrated that berberine had a powerful impact on my blood sugar regulation, likely due to its ability to activate AMPK and improve insulin sensitivity. While fasting glucose is a critical marker, what happens to your blood sugar after you eat is arguably just as important for your daily energy and long-term health. Before starting this experiment, my continuous glucose monitor would paint a picture of a volatile roller coaster after meals, especially those higher in carbohydrates. A bowl of pasta or a slice of pizza could easily send my glucose soaring to 150 or even 160 milligrams per deciliter. This sharp spike would inevitably be followed by a rapid crash, leaving me feeling sluggish, foggy, and reaching for a sugary snack to pick myself back up. This post-meal crash was that classic 3 p.m. slump I knew all too well. I was incredibly curious to see if berberine could blunt this effect. As part of my protocol, I deliberately ate some of my trigger meals during the 30-day period. The results were immediate and remarkable. The first time I had a pasta dinner while on berberine, I watched my CGM with anticipation. Instead of the usual sharp, dramatic peak, the curve was noticeably different. It was a gentler, more rounded hill. My blood sugar still rose, which is normal, but the peak was significantly lower, topping out around 125 milligrams per deciliter instead of 160. The mountain had become a molehill. This blunting effect was consistent throughout the entire month. On average, I calculated that berberine reduced my post-meal glucose spikes by approximately 20 to 25%. This had a profound impact on my daily life. The post-lunch energy crash that used to be a regular feature simply vanished. My energy levels became far more stable and predictable. I no longer felt that desperate need for a sugary pick-me-up or a second cup of coffee. It felt like I had finally gotten off the metabolic roller coaster and was cruising on a much smoother, more stable track. This effect is one of the key reasons berberine is studied for metabolic health. By improving insulin sensitivity and potentially slowing down carbohydrate absorption, it helps the body manage the influx of sugar from a meal much more effectively. It prevents the system from being overwhelmed, which in turn prevents the over-release of insulin that leads to the subsequent crash. For me, this was one of the most tangible and life-enhancing benefits of the entire experiment. It wasn't just about improving a number on a chart, it was about improving my quality of life, my productivity, and my relationship with food, one meal at a time. I tracked my weight and appetite closely, without changing my diet or exercise. For the first week, my weight barely budged, but by the end of the month, I'd lost 4 pounds, without trying. The real surprise was my appetite. My usual cravings for sweets and snacks faded, and I felt satisfied with less food. I even skipped my late-night snacks, not out of willpower, but because I simply wasn't hungry. Research suggests berberine may influence hunger hormones and stabilize blood sugar, making healthier choices easier. That 4-pound loss felt like just the start. Side effects? Mostly digestive, especially in the first week. Bloating, gas, and a mild metallic taste. Taking berberine with food helped, and by week 2, my gut had mostly adjusted. A probiotic and kombucha seemed to ease the transition. The metallic taste was minor and faded quickly. For me, side effects were manageable, but those with sensitive digestion should start slow and always consult a doctor. The golden rule: never take berberine on an empty stomach. Beyond the numbers, my energy became steady. No more afternoon crashes. I slept more deeply and woke up refreshed, likely thanks to stable overnight blood sugar. Mental clarity improved. The usual brain fog lifted. With fewer cravings and better sleep, I felt more in control of my health. The experiment wasn't just about glucose. It was about feeling better every day. The benefits were as much about well-being as they were about data. Berberine works by activating AMPK, the body's master metabolic switch. This enzyme tells cells to burn energy instead of storing it, much like exercise does. Once AMPK is on, cells pull more glucose from the blood, lowering blood sugar without extra insulin. Berberine mimics the metabolic effects of a workout at the cellular level. It's not a replacement for exercise, but it helps your metabolism run more efficiently. This is the core reason for Berberine's powerful impact on blood sugar. AMPK activation also improves insulin sensitivity, so your body needs less insulin to manage blood sugar. Lower insulin means less fat storage and fewer cravings. Stable blood sugar keeps your appetite in check and reduces the urge for quick sugar fixes. Some studies suggest berberine may even limit the formation of new fat cells. It's a multi-pronged approach: burn more fuel, store less fat, and curb cravings. That's why berberine is so promising for metabolic health. Berberine is most helpful for those with pre-diabetes, insulin resistance, or PCOS. It can also help if you've hit a weight loss plateau, but it's not for everyone. Avoid if pregnant, breastfeeding, or on diabetes meds without doctor supervision. Those with gut issues should be cautious, as berberine can disrupt digestion. Always consult your physician before starting berberine or any potent supplement. Used wisely, it can be a powerful tool for metabolic health. After 30 days, is berberine the all-powerful nature's Ozempic the internet claims? Not a magic bullet to erase poor choices, but a tool for improving metabolic health, particularly blood sugar. My experiment showed it remarkably effective. A 14-point drop in my fasting glucose and a 20 to 25% reduction in post-meal spikes showed a tangible link between balanced blood sugar and overall quality of life. Berberine acted as the catalyst, unlocking a more stable metabolic state. Do not self-diagnose or replace prescribed medications. Berberine is not a substitute for professional medical advice. My experience suggests berberine is worth investigating under a doctor's guidance. It calmed the metabolic storm and put me back in the driver's seat of my health. If you got value from this video, don't forget to like, share it, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you do not miss any of our future videos. Thank you.